Welcome everyone to another episode of Adil Prasada podcast. Today I'm here again with my co-host Kevin Padillo.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the show.
How are you doing, Kevin?
Good, feeling great.
Awesome. So today we got another exciting episode of our podcast, and we're going to be continuing discussion on the commercial stuff. So last week it was residential, and today we're going to discuss stuff about commercial construction.
Yeah, so we'll be covering a little bit about the different types of construction, commercial construction, from retail to offices to high-rise. This is going to be a great show. I love talking about high-rises. I want to build a high-rise, and I know we will. And what I want to cover today is, before we jump into the questions, and we're going to be covering some information from Adil, I want to talk about what the Pircon Group does. If you're listening to the first time, welcome to our show. We go live every Friday on construction, business, real estate. We're looking for guests. This podcast is hosted by the Pircon Group, and Adil is the owner, and he is the CEO of the company. And what we do is we do design build, we do commercial construction, we build retail stores, restaurants, office spaces, any kind of commercial space. We can help you from the design process to the build. We can help you along the whole way, and our scopes of work include designs such as commercial permitting, the drawings, the rendering, the development permits, to even getting it built from the ground up. Our team is ready. Our project managers are ready. So feel free to call us. I'll leave our notes down below. If you want to apply for a quote, visit pircongroup.com, and our link will be down below, pircongroup.com. So let's jump into this topic.
Awesome. So, I think last week is all about residential construction we discussed, and we did discuss multifamily, which could be under residential, and then it's part of it is commercial depending on the building type. Well, mostly it is commercial, at least it's considered, because those are bigger projects. So, commercial construction, it's actually, there is a lot into it because there is so many different kinds of commercial construction. Like your retail plaza stores. We got the commercial office buildings and office districts. And then there is commercial high-rise buildings. And then obviously you got other places. So even the government buildings, like the schools, the medical places, the hospitals, because of their size, they're also commercial buildings. And then the construction for doing commercial is actually has to be 99% of the time has to be done by a licensed commercial contractor, highly experienced in these things, because these buildings are built with certain design depending on their size. So you would need a lot of management and team in order to have the work in order and have the project done, completed on time.
For sure. So I know we have 3 different topics that we're going to dive in today and focus on. We're going to start with retail plazas, and we have a list of questions for Adil just to showcase his knowledge and strength in that area. Adil has been working at this for almost 20 years in construction, from a strong project management background, from working with big companies and big projects, from PCL to Borger, all these great companies and projects of building subdivisions. Adil's vast knowledge has given our company a huge edge, and also Chris's vast knowledge as well in construction has given us a very strong edge in the marketplace. And Adil's going to be sharing first about retail plazas, and I'll be asking him some questions there.
Yeah, so we got some questions there, and that's based on what actually Kevin really wanted to know about retail plazas and retail construction. And also we're thinking what our audience would want to listen to. And they may have some basic questions. I mean, there's so much depth into each of it, and there's so much detail that we can discuss and so many things that can come out of it. But we're just going to touch the surface and then maybe discuss about things that kind of matter right now, and then especially for our audience and the entrepreneurs and different businesses and some corporations that we work for on their commercial end. So this is just to spread the word and educate about the commercial construction.
Let's do it. So first question that I got for you, Adil, is how do you build a retail plaza from the ground up?
So if you're just building a retail plaza, which is normally a single story, it's actually, the process is a lot easier and it's pretty straightforward in terms of the construction complexity. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, okay.
It's usually because you're not digging down a basement, you're not going down, like a residential homes that you would typically do. You're building on ground.
Right.
It's you got a subfloor, so it's right on the dirt pretty much. So it's not that much work in that regard. And then you're building a commercial building which is structurally supported on this column and beam system. So especially the single stories, their single stories are the easiest to erect. And then they're like cookie cutter in a way. They're kind of designed and manufactured on a large level. So easily they have certain design, like they would have a certain span between the columns. So you'll have the columns and then you'll have the beams. So that's the skeleton of the property. Where as compared to the residential homes, they are built on a stick frame system. So which is the basically the wood framing, right? And those become the skeleton of the house. Where when you're building commercial plazas, the skeleton is not the exterior walls. It's not your walls. It's actually just the columns in there. And then you have beams running between the columns that become your skeleton. And then just you basically put the skin outside and inside of that skeleton. That's how it's done. So in that regard, it's pretty easy. And then mostly you'll see a single story, double story, 3 stories, 4 stories. There's different commercial retail, and it could turn into a high-rise building, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, for single story, it's pretty straightforward. You would have your foundation, you would erect the columns, you have the beams on top of it, and then you just cover it up with the siding from the outside. So obviously, there's board and the insulation, and then siding from the inside, and then you would cover with the drywall from the inside.
Yeah. No, building retail is fun. I had fun working with a crew that built a Safeway in Okotoks.
Oh, really? Where was that?
That was just outside of Okotoks near the Honda dealership. We were building a Safeway, and our team that I worked with, we were doing a lot of foundation work in concrete. There was so much. I was working with carpenters and surveyors and making sure everything was level and all the walls were up and the columns and the footings were up and the rebar was in place. And it was just so fun working with all the different excavators and building the foundation. And we're just watching the other retail plazas being built with the columns and just exactly what Adil was saying. All these beams were going up, these huge steel beams that were just being placed, drilled into the concrete. It was just amazing being built, and I had fun just being a part of that project. That was
like you need a proper team. Like you need a highly skilled team for that. Like they've been doing that. They know what they're doing. It looks easy. It is easier in, like I said, in a lot of ways. But it's still, you're dealing with a lot of heavy weights and everything about it is commercial, right? So it's a large quantity. It's not like a residential where it's only 1,000, 2,000 square foot of coverage. These buildings are big, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 square foot. So, so it's a lot of coverage. So you need a right team to get that done. So you need a construction contractor who's really familiar and have all the tools and the talent that requires to get that size of a project done.
Right.
So If you look at if you understand construction really well, if you know what is construction is about, the process is very easy. There are not too many trades involved. I honestly almost find it harder to build inside of a retail plazas than to build the outside, if that makes any sense. The inside, there's so many things, so many line items, so many items of scope of work that needs to be done than the outside, or building the exterior of the building. And these things could take a lot of time. The safety, I think the big difference between the outside and the inside, in terms of the construction knowledge, I would say, in terms of the contractor responsibility, is the safety. Is the outside there's a big on the safety. Inside, there are not so much risk on the safety.
Wear your hard hat, guys. Yeah, wear your hard hat.
Of course, and you got to wear them inside as well with your steel toes and everything. But the outside, you got heavy equipment. You got things that could actually potentially hurt you. You got open trenches, maybe. You got You got rebar sitting there. You got a lot of stuff in there that you have to look out for. It's loud, it's noisy. You probably have cranes on site. There's a lot of stuff happening in a site at the same time. So it does become very risky, and safety does become a big issue for this.
Yeah, it's so key. I know. Yeah, when I was before we move on, I remember just working on that Safeway site. It was so easy just to get hit by a freaking backhoe or something, man. These guys are speeding through the zone, and I'm like, they can't hear you, man.
Yeah, it's noisy, it's loud, so you need extra safety precautions just for that. I'm not saying when you're working inside construction there's no safety. You still have to have safety. Sometimes when we're working these retail plazas from the inside, the ceiling is 20-30 feet high. Some of these malls could get really high in the ceiling. Some of these places get really high in the ceiling. And then, doing the work up in the ceiling, it's very risky. It's dangerous. There's a lot of things. There's still heavy equipment that we're installing inside and outside that is very risky and dangerous. And then there's a lot of safety concerns inside too. But the outside is just a whole different story.
Safety first, so key.
Yeah, safety. It's
now,
all about safety.
As we move away from the exterior, from the structure, the high view, we're gonna go down to the more detailed view of building the interior of a retail store. So the store is built, structure is built, the skeleton is built, the skin is put on. Now it's time to build the individual units. Tell us about who is building the interior of a retail store.
So it really depends. If it's a retail plaza that is going to have multiple stores, most of the time, those stores are built individually by the tenant or the owner. So let's say if there is a retail plaza, there is a dollar store, and there is a retail store, there is a convenience store. So whoever is end up taking the lease or the ownership of that unit, they're responsible for building it. So that's how it goes. But when you're building these retail big box stores or some dedicated stores, so the inside and the outside are most of the time done by the same contractor. So let's say if there was a drive-through location of a coffee place, or let's say it's Tim Hortons or McDonald's. So it's the same contractor who's going to build it the outside and build the exterior of the building and then do the construction inside. Same thing goes with some of these other places, if I know correctly, like Staples, or if they're built individually, like Shoppers or big retail places,
Walmart,
Staples. Costco, they would all have pretty much the same contractor building the outside, and they're also doing, so it's a general contractor who's just the GC who's actually going to have to do the site work first. So Remember, we talk about that in our subdivision in one of the podcasts. So when a subdivision is being built, there's a site work, there's the underground services. Now, this is one of those sites where are left to build commercial. So they will have to do the remaining site work. So the remaining drainage, the surface drainage, the underground water services, the sanitary storm services, that would have to be done by that GC as well. Also putting asphalt, doing concrete work, and then they would also have to build the building, right? The big retail place or the retail plaza or big box retail.
Yeah, so we do a lot of that retail stuff, and I'm gonna actually, the next question kind of goes into what I'm saying. Tell us about the Pircon Group's role in commercial construction.
Yeah, so we're all about construction, and obviously commercial is our forte. So is what we're really good at. So yeah, building commercial inside, outside. It's what is it important to do that? Like how we're doing, I think our job correctly is that we have a team of individuals that come with a lot of experience in these certain fields. So doing commercial work and understanding construction project management on the commercial level, and understanding the schedules and the timelines for these projects to get it done accordingly, because there's so many things are involved that we're relying on to take the project from one step to the next step. So let's say, and it's been quite a issue for us for some projects where, especially during COVID, we were delayed pretty much during that time on every single project for equipment. And these are HVAC equipment and electrical equipment, and then sometimes the restaurant equipment or the medical office equipment. So we're not only getting them delayed, but we're also having issues now with trades because they're not available to get it done. So these things happen in time sensitive like that. But if were to happen normally, like when the times are fine and it's still happening, not because of delivery delays, because it's just not happening, is because the contractor is not knowledgeable enough to get it done. So in order to get it done on a perfect right schedule, you need the right team, and that's what Pircon plays a big role. Getting those things done, looking actually ahead of a time that what is going to be needed for a certain project and what are the timelines that we're going to have to work around in order to get it to that state, so we can just do plug and play when that happens. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot of background, and Pircon does really well on that part. And having the ability to build some of the places that we built within such a short period of time is just the proof of how we play a big role in getting these commercial places done.
I know we'll be covering this, ideally in another podcast. However, I'm going to be a little biased because I just, as a new member of this team in the Pircon group, I have watched our crew time and time again just crush it in the area of retail and building restaurants. I know we're working on multiple projects right now, and we're building pizza stores, salons, working on office spaces, doing all these different things, building restaurants, takeout stores. And I'm watching the quality of the work and the project management. And if you view it from a detailed eye, you could see a construction project like a little cycle or an engine. There's special parts moving the engine. And without key focused parts like project managers, team leaders, an oversight, like our team does, we're watching every part. We're making sure it's on time. We're making sure the trades are there. We're making sure that the materials are ready on time. The structure that we have on our crew and the process is just so unmatched. I'm learning so much from being a part of this crew. So we're going to cover this at another podcast, but I know in commercial construction, there's something such as a construction manager or a general contractor that manages the whole different parts of the engine. There's different parts of an engine like the gasoline. I'm not an engine guy, but there's so many different small parts. But the Pircon is like the whole engine. I don't know. This is just like the main part of the engine.
Yeah,
the body of the engine, and we hold it together.
Yeah,
and make sure it's
there's
going.
a lot of moving parts,
and without without an oversight like a strong general contractor or construction manager, your project will fail. And it could be on time. You could be losing so much money, and the quality of your work will go low. That's why you need a general contractor. That's why you need to call us, and we'll manage your project and make sure that your business is ready to grow.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts. Even like some of the simple projects that we're seeing is just, they're not too much work involved. Just because they're commercial projects, there are a lot of things that if they're not aware of it, if they're not looking, if there's something like that they haven't done it before, they're going to waste their time. Like I've seen it from time and time. People have always make that mistake where they'll go try to do it themselves, even if it's just a small renovation. Let's say if an office. And this office happens to be on a second story. Now, a lot of people won't even consider, hey, like I've decided to demolish everything and build 3 new rooms. Very easy. Just going to get somebody to do it. One of my friends are going to come in and he's a carpenter. Like, okay, fine. But they're not realizing all the planning that they should be doing ahead of time. All the materials they should be acquiring ahead of time. Also understanding the site. Like, how do I take the materials on the second floor?
Yeah.
What is going to be needed? Is there an elevator, or am I going to like pick it up through the stairs, or I'm going to crane it up? So there's things that a contractor would know, and they would get it done in no time. And then you probably have to waste a lot of time before you figure out how to get it done. And it's like very simple. Sometimes I see people stuck, like they can't get the equipment inside the unit, and they're delayed on the project.
Sucks.
Yeah. Why? Because nobody looked at the size of the door, right? And before purchasing that equipment, so it's very little things you would think of it, or like, it's not a big deal, but they cause big issues. And that's why if you have the right team, the right people doing the work, they're experienced, they know, they're always thinking ahead of time what they are going to need it. And they've been through that. They've seen all the failures. They know what to do when something goes wrong and how to correct it and make it right. So all that stuff, and you need that because creating these places, especially like for new businesses, when they're like, let's say a lawyer who got to open up an office for his new law firm, and I got big plans to do this, and they got people waiting. The new hires are going to come in. There are a lot of things that are going to happen. If they're delayed on the project, they're just delaying everything in their life, basically.
You're delaying everything, even making more money.
Yeah. You're not only wasting your time and money at this point if you're delayed because of certain things you didn't get them right. You're also delaying your money to come in, your revenue to build up. The longer it takes for you to get there, the longer it takes for you to actually have it built, the longer it takes you to start making money, to start running your business. And that's going to cost you in big ways. So, do have the right team from the beginning when building these places, when building commercial places. Have your team, have your preferred guy from day one with you when you're exploring options, when you're looking what you're going to need to build before you sign any documents, before you kind of make it firm. You need someone's opinion. This is completely different from residential construction.
And what's really key about, especially a team, is having a good designer aligned with the builder. A designer and a builder need to be along the same path. As I study, construction, I've been learning that, hey, sometimes designers and builders, they always, sometimes if they're two different companies, it can get confusing. But the best thing about what we have in our company is the fact that we do both the design and build part of the process. So Our team is all in-house. Our architects, our engineers are all here. And we work together with the construction team to make sure that the projects are along the same path. And it's following the same path, and we're not having to contact another company, waiting to hear back, risking maybe they're on vacation and all of a sudden it's missed all these delays, and the whole project is being built a whole different way than how you envisioned on paper. So team is key.
Yeah. Number one thing.
Yep.
I guess that's one of the things how we're playing a big role by doing this design build models of our construction builds.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So we're moving on. What are as we finish up with the retail plaza, what are the important things to highlight when building retail plazas or big box stores and interior construction?
Yeah, so I think it's the planning from day one, the right planning and having the right team,
So
like
key.
the right partners in your team, like the right designer, the right contractor, or the general contractor. It's such a key, and most of these places, I mean, if you're thinking about a big retail plaza or a big box retail, so they usually come from a very experienced developer, because you don't kind of get into it very easily. Just, you happen to build one of the big plazas. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So it usually does come from very qualified and experienced developer and builders, or like, big corporations that are building these commercial spaces, right? So, what you need is obviously the good designer who can maximize on your design and get you, the property and the shape of it, and with the building permits, like they can get you there, because it could take a lot of time. A raw piece of land just sitting there, depending on where it is, whether it's part of new subdivision or something in the inner city. The timelines could be really different on the building permit side of things as well too, and you could lose a lot of time, and you could face a lot of delays on building permits and your development permit side of things. So it's actually a very key important thing to have the right designer who knows all that stuff, who can get you the right things, who can have the right planning done for you. So you're not wasting any time between the process, because the process itself takes a lot of time. So you're already ahead of your process. You already know what is going to be needed next, and you're already working on it, so you can get that in line, so you can have everything done on time. So, I think the big highlight is just getting to know the right team, whether is you're building a plaza or a big box store, any retail construction, like any construction. This construction really require that experienced and actually talented team is what you're after, who can make it happen, who know what they're doing, and then they can deliver it. So that's really much needed, and I would highlight it again, and that a lot of people are kind of getting into it or been doing it for some time. They should understand this. This is not like a residential construction. On a residential construction, I mean, even if you're renovating your home or you're building a brand new house, you're not really calculating your payments per month and how much time you have given in to this construction and when you're going to have it done. And things might change in your plans because you have emotional attachment, so you don't like certain, paint or certain tile or certain flooring. You want to change it and you want to explore different options. When it comes to commercial, it's very time sensitive, because everything, it depends on a payment, it depends on some lending or financing, and there is a big responsibility for these developer and retail owners, or the corporations, when they're building these places. They have to meet the timelines in order to save money, so they don't go over budget, and it's so easy to actually to make a mistake, because it's such a long process, and having not the right team people can easily off track you, and you could lose thousands of dollars.
No, you don't want that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the commercial office districts. Before we do, guys, hit the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Smash that like button and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. You know, you're gonna get weekly videos on construction and just see how learn some free value, a free course, university or even higher business level of construction training just from one of our podcast episodes. So smash that like button, subscribe, and share. So We're also looking for some guests as well before we continue to the next topic. We're looking for guests we want to feature on this podcast, such as entrepreneurs, business leaders, real estate investors. We want to get you here on the show, ask you about your journey, and give you a chance to share some strategies and give back to the people who are on their way up. So if that's you, you can email me down below. I'll put my email in the notes. You can contact me and we'll get you on the show and we'll book you in. You could either come down to our studio in the South Calgary, or you could also come do it on Zoom, but it's better to meet you in person. That's what a deal like. So
Yeah, 100%. It's so much better face to face in person.
yeah, just don't come in my office. It's kind of dirty. Just kidding. All right, so we're gonna move into commercial offices. First question is, how much does it cost to build a commercial office?
So are you talking about like the interior or the exterior?
We could do both.
So, so commercial offices, it's a commercial building. Okay. So now if you're in downtown, that's a high rise building. If it's in, let's say, office district, then it's a maybe a single or 2-story or 3-story commercial building. Same way, high rises are completely different. Commercial buildings, what you build for a retail plaza, pretty much the same style, same material, pretty much the same building design for a office as well.
Right.
Matter of fact, a lot of commercial places like a retail plaza, you'll notice on the main floor you'll see your retail, and the second floor they always have an office. So it's the same building and it's done within the same zoning, and then you can get multiple use. So that's what it is. So from the outside, it's pretty much same as a retail plaza. Now from the inside, again, that's commercial work. It's pretty straightforward and simple. It's not as complex like when we're building like restaurants and we're like medical clinics and veterinary clinics and dental places and cafes, and they get a little more complicated. Offices actually are the easiest in terms of its complexity. It's not that hard. It's usually now within the offices there's different classes, and depends where the building is and type of building. Then it could get very complicated. And then obviously if you're trying to do something very unique and different, then it could also get very complicated. Like imagine if you got, and there are some places where like, they got big painting or big feature on the wall, or a big chandelier hanging from the ceiling, and it's like thousands of pounds. So obviously you're going to get it's going to be complexity. But building a place like our office space, it's pretty simple. It's usually flooring, wall, ceiling. And again, I would still go to a very qualified, experienced commercial contractor to get that done. Because where is that office located? Maybe it's on the 70th floor. Well, I don't think there is a 70th floor building in Calgary, but
Maybe the Bow.
Yeah, maybe the
close.
Bow it is. Maybe it's the penthouse in Bow, right?
Or the Telesky.
Yeah. So you're gonna need a qualified general contractor to get that done. Even if it's in your backyard, I don't know, some commercial plaza and there's an office, you're still gonna need, if you wanted to save time and money, you're gonna need a right team to get that done.
Yeah, especially if you're gonna hang something on the wall, you don't want that like wall just being like the drywall just ripped once you hang a picture there. Or you want that washroom door to open properly and to be able to lock that door. So it's good to hire a contractor, because when you have customers and clients coming to your shop and your business, you want to make sure that you're representing them in a strong, mighty way, that you look qualified, not a dollar store.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure, you can try to do it yourself and then you'll get yourself a job. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you're still putting that time and hours to get it done. Like, or hire even a project manager. I don't actually mind, like, some people who are experienced and maybe, that's what they do and they like it. And they do something light, like building a basement. I think that's completely fine if they think they can do it like as a hobby or in part-time and without hurting their other things. Like if I would say if someone is an accountant, let's say, right, and then says, hey, I got to build my basement, I'm going to save money by building it, I say you hire a trade person or a small contractor to get it built, and then maybe try to expand on your accounting business so you can actually invest more time in your accounting, maybe learn some skills, maybe get some courses done so you can actually 10x your money over there rather than just trying to squeeze it and save it from a basement construction. So unless you're going to have a basement construction company forever, then you should do a basement. Then you should get into it and build your first basement and then start building other people's basement. But there's no point of investing into a construction project your time and money if it wasn't your thing to do.
For sure. Outsource your weaknesses. Work on them a bit, but work your strengths.
Yeah,
that's where you get your
have
most
have the
return.
right team people. That's what we do, right? I mean, there's so many things that I don't know, and then we hire those people so they can do it more efficiently in a better manner than I could probably get it done, right?
Yeah. So that did we cover the interior yet of the cost or no?
So, I mean, I don't know what the question is because the cost really depends on the size of it and what you want in there. Okay, so
Let's say like a basic office.
Like if you're gonna do anything in commercial and basic, office is gonna be your cheapest place. So if you need to build a medical clinic, is going to be more expensive than an office. If you're going to build,
because of the materials and supplies inside, right?
Well, it's just again it's there is not too much involved in an office other than just simple rooms. It's like building a house, with electrical receptacles and a light. But when you build some of these special places like spas and salons and even barber shops, like the very simplest ones like cafe, they're a little more complex than building an office, for sure.
Nice. Okay, and let's go into what does the role of designer play in office construction? So, like a designer,
a big role. A designer always
architect, engineers.
Yeah, a designer always play a big role. Like a designer could make and break your project in many ways, right? So especially working with like some specialty complicated stuff, these odd projects that happen to be in malls and high-rise building or some special places, public access areas and things like that. You need the right designer to have the right timelines. Like you could really waste a lot of money if you don't have the right designer on the team.
Now, would a structural engineer need to play a huge factor in this? I know you said it's basic, but I'm curious of that.
No, not an office space. So, you wouldn't need it, right? Like you wouldn't need an office. It's like the basic it gets for commercial construction. I would say it's like the first thing, right? It's very basic, a basic office. I'm not talking about, there are offices that are highly complicated because where they're located and also what's going in them, right? I mean, if you're building an office for Google or Apple, it's not going to be a very easy office space, right? It's going to be very complicated.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so the designer play a big role. You're not going to need a structural engineer, like I said, unless it was being built, something very different. I don't know, unless you're building an office space for a GM and they're going to hang a vehicle upside down. That's where you're going to need a structural engineer to come in and then give you a structural design how to hang that piece of art from the ceiling. But if it's just a normal office, I'm talking about small businesses, right? For a lawyer, for accountant, for a consultant.
Like a place in West Winds or something, like an office.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be near us.
Southside.
It could be in Quarry Park. It's the same thing. It's an office. It gets a little tougher and harder based on the building. And then obviously the more complex the building is, the harder it is your point of access into the office area and do construction. And then you're going to have to be mindful of a lot of things considering that building, where you're building it. But office is pretty much really the base stuff when it comes to commercial construction.
Okay. Now, as you wrap up the commercial office topic, final question is, how long does it take to build commercial office?
Not very long.
Time frame.
Again, on your scope of work, anywhere 2,000 to 3,000 square foot. We've done it within a month, done it 2 months. So depends, right? Where it is, main floor, pretty easy access, don't need too many things done. Even if it's a big space, let's say 10,000 square foot, we can get it done time if it's not having some of those big units in there, if we don't have to do any big mechanical plumbing or structural work. Like it wouldn't require normal cases, and if we don't have to do it, it's going to be really quick.
Nice.
Yeah, so a couple months, I would say.
2-3 months, you think?
Yeah, 2-3 months.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go into our favorite topic, Adil and I's special favorite topic. It is high-rises, so those big towers that you see downtown, all over every city. We're going to cover high-rises. Anything you want to say first about high-rises, Adil?
So
we get into it?
So you said our favorite topic, and so what's the reason that's your favorite topic?
So I like high rises because they're big and strong and mighty. I like multifamily because a lot of families can live inside in one small piece of property, and it just goes up, and there's thousands of people that live inside, and just a lot of opportunity, and it's just tall and strong. I don't know. I've always been obsessed with towers ever since I was a young kid. So
Yeah.
that's my reason.
Yeah. I think like we kind of discussed our present right now and the past so far, and then this is the future, right? Like the high rises. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there is something I like about high rises on the construction side of the thing, because they have to be so strong structurally. They have to be built a certain way. So that's a very attractive thing. And then the skyline, I just love that. I like to visit
skyline.
places, go to countries where, like New York. I completely love New York because of its skyline. It's just amazing. The towers in there, the buildings. Yeah, I was there, and I didn't even think I looked at the road the whole time. I was just looking up in the sky. And then and understanding how they're built is very fascinating to me. And then I've like done the research and read things, how they get built in different areas. Like, so it's quite fascinating in that. So just for building it and just for the look, I love the high rises. People living in it or not, I mean, I see most of high rises are not occupant. So in Calgary, I don't know what it was.
Maybe
I think
not an office, a condo. Like
condo
multifamily
buildings
for
are
sure.
there always. Yeah. But some of these office buildings, in especially around COVID and after that, and even before that, they were never been to their full occupancy. They're always been kind of sitting empty. But yeah, I still like them as long as they got the lights on them. I like to watch it, and I like the downtown view of these cities because of these high rises.
Okay, now for how big is a deal of how big is it of a deal of building a high rise?
It's a big deal.
Tell us more.
Yeah, building a high rise is actually a really, really big deal. It's not easy to. It's probably the hardest, the most difficult construction. It is within the construction industry itself, I would say. I mean, there's quite complicated things in other parts of construction, like building bridges isn't easy, and building like these tunnels isn't easy. So building a high rise, just discussing so far what we discussed on part of the construction, a livable construction. High rise is probably the most difficult to build, and the most risky actually to have it done. There is a lot that goes into it. They go deep down in the ground, and they obviously go really high up in the sky. So then they've got elevator systems, and then there's
Cranes,
fire separation. Yeah. Well, yeah, cranes, and even for the building code point of view, there's so many things because you got so many occupants, right? You get so many people congested in one building, right? So whether like, I don't know, 200 foot by 200 foot or 100 foot by 100 foot building, like these nowadays they're building even skinnier and skinnier buildings, and they go taller and taller. So, which is even harder to build. But yeah, so they get quite complicated. That's what I like about them.
Yeah, big shout out to those guys on do concrete on a high rise. Those guys are they have huge demands, especially, I heard they have huge targets, almost like one floor a week to be built. Forms up, concrete poured, finished, onto the next floor in a week. And I heard about the push, and yeah, big shout out to these guys.
Oh yeah. It's working on a height. It's not easy, and especially when they're getting the skeleton of the building up. Man, those are very tough. Like, there is so much weight and risk involved because you have to crane everything up, and they're craning a lot of heavy material. As they're building the structural part of the building, that stuff is really heavy. So when that is being done, it's really risky. You have no support whatsoever. So it becomes very difficult.
Ever seen one of those videos or the photos of those guys in New York?
Yeah,
they'd sit on a freaking metal beam eating lunch.
Yeah, that's like
crazy.
Back in the days when they had no safety standards, and you can just have no harness, nothing, right? And then you can just go. Actually, a lot of people died, and there is a lot of fertility rate for building these high rises. Not like anymore, I would say. I mean, they're still very risky, but all these construction companies have to have a big safety team, and there's a lot of precautions. So yeah, back in the days, it was a thing. And building an Empire State Building, I think there's a lot of people that died. So even in the Middle East, like there's a lot of noise about building these construction sites, and a lot of people losing their life. So I'm not sure, but we have, as a humanity, as construction and contractors, we have actually come very, very far. I mean, we're a long way from where we used to be. The safety standards are much more strict, and they're much more better, and there are a lot of things you can do now. There's a lot of things. There is actually a lot of improvement in happening on construction on that end. I still think on a construction as a whole, we're very behind in terms of technology, but construction is one of the hardest industry to get done by robots, basically. So we're gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be a long way, but there are things that can be worked on and that is happening too in some parts of the world where it's making the construction process easy and making these harder and tougher projects easier.
What problems do you see in building a high rise?
Oh man, there's so many things. Again, like there's so many line items to be covered, right? That I talk about the scope of work. Like you first gotta, it pretty much includes every single thing you could look for in a construction project, because you got the building, it has to go deep in the ground. Then you have the services, then the foundation. So those piles go in the ground. And then the construction, the skeleton construction building, like of it itself, building at a height, it's so much hard to do that. You got the wind alone at those height, it's just crazy. Yeah, like
I'm sure it gets super windy and cold the higher you go.
oh yeah, exactly. And then especially like I said, building up the skeleton is very hard.
The downtown Calgary, there's this one tower. I used to watch it being built in East Village, actually, above Superstore. And it was just got so high. Every morning I'd watch it. And I'm like, whoa, but these guys are like freezing their butts off.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's so high up, and those are very trained, like special guys that actually end up working. So yeah, it's pretty tough. It's tougher than anything I've seen.
tell us about the future of high rises right now, 2023. What's in your vision? Maybe a little bit of real estate as well, but what do you think?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not like a big fan of high rise on like where it is. Like, you know, it's a competition between countries who's going to build the tallest one and the best and the bigger. Like, I like it because of its construction methods and its complexity, and then it's the architect and the skyline it provides to a city. I don't care too much about like who's building the tallest one. And I mean, there are features that these new buildings are having, and you know, I think the future looks good as we're going to improve in construction methods and building construction. The safety is going to get better, and then we're going to be able to build more and more of these. I would like to see, there is a huge cost of building these high rises. If you were to build a high rise versus, let's say, a single story building, you know, like a industrial building of a same square footage, they were just on the floor versus the one standing high up in the air, the cost is just completely it's a huge difference. And that, again, the construction method, the time it's going to take, and the safety, it's alone in high rises a lot. Future, I don't know, are we going to have, I saw this Tesla that they're working on this, it's their gigafactory, it's their car manufacturing factory, and then
that. Yeah.
and it's a vertical tower rather than like a big industrial building, right? Like what they have for the other places. So
Like width size, it's more like height.
yeah, it's like
Taller.
it's really wide and it's tall. It's probably like the tallest building or something like that. And yeah, I mean, it's not a bad concept to have, like depending on where you're planning to build it in the city and where that business require, where they can have easy access for people. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a good idea in downtown. For the show of it, I think it's good. But I don't know, on the feasibility side, I don't know how that is. Obviously, it's going to cost way more money. So I don't know how it is on the feasibility side. For the looks of it, I think it's a great idea. It's going to look good. And then I think I do see more and more things like that happening in future. Like these big, ginormous companies are going to do more and more creative things like that. So we'll see probably more high rises in the Middle East and
Factory on an airplane.
yeah, like exactly. Like now, actually, there is a really good model out there, and Toronto is full of that. There is some happening in Calgary. Is that you have these high-rise towers and they're multi-use towers. So you will have a first section of a rentable or owner-occupied apartments, and then you'll have like a hotel in the middle that people could use it as a hotel, and then it will have the rest of it will be like a retail and office building.
I've seen those. Those are cool.
So those mixed use are actually coming in a lot, and then it looks like it's been working for them. So I do see more of that happening.
The Telesky is actually a huge mixed use one, commercial, residential.
It's a really nice building too.
Yeah, they have the headquarters, and then the other side's just all residential.
Yeah, really so cool. I do see future filled with that, and I look forward to seeing like better and better stuff and better construction methods. Hopefully we can have that with better safety and using better materials. So I think this is something Pircon will definitely be working in the future, where we're going to look closely into high rises and play our part, doing our role in maybe building them better and building them with better technology and better materials.
Bamboo.
Yeah.
What are things to look for when renovating a high-rise building? Final question.
Yeah. So, again, like how the building is so complicated, I would think the renovation and construction of it's very complicated too. Just in terms of like you're working on a vertical building. So just think about all the things you're going to need. So let's say, building it is one thing, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have cranes set up and all that. But when we have, let's say there is a full renovation of a building. We recently looked at a building. It was like a renovation. I think it was like a 25 floor building and has apartment building. So renovation of an entire building. Now, they want to change the windows. It's like a full reno. Or they want to change the windows. They want to change the floors, all the millwork, or all the ceiling, all that stuff that they need to do it. You may have to actually set up a crane just for that, because you need things done on height. You have to see access points, and you have to check like if there's a freight elevator, because usually those are bigger elevators. So how are you going to transfer the materials?
Especially windows. Heavy.
Yeah, the windows are heavy, the drywall is heavy, the boarding is heavy. So if you're using that, you may have to get a crane for that time period and get those stuff in there. And you would have to do it in such a sequence that it just works out without hassle, where you can get it demolished and then also start renovating it. Now, just to tell you, most of these multifamily, so what I know, these high rises and these multifamily buildings, when they're getting renovated, they're not getting renovated like they don't empty out the entire building and just renovate the building at the same time. They would actually do it floor by floor. So you would have, let's say if it's 15 floors, you would do first phase is first five floor, the second phase is the other 5, and the third phase is the remaining 5. So that's how you would do it. Floors. So you would demolish it within that phase, those floors only, and then you would build in those floors only, and then you would go to the other phase and then do the same thing, and then the other phase and do the same thing.
Crazy. So it makes it more like manageable in chunks.
Yeah, it's more manageable, and also let's say they have tenants in there. Let's say they have occupants in there, so they don't have to kick everyone out at the same time.
Yeah, think of it, guys. If let's say I used to live in a high rise as well, and I know how much of a pain in the butt it is to share an elevator, especially the moving elevator. So much waiting. You're like, where's this elevator at? And when I used to work for a concrete cutting company, we had to move stuff from the basement. We drilled the hole for the plumbers. We cut it. We had to move these huge, like 6-inch, 7-inch, 10-inch blocks of concrete and move it onto an elevator. And it was just like the fact that the stairs were not in order and the elevators had to wait. It took a huge process to even manage working with other trades in the building to use the elevator on and off, who was next to go in the elevator, which team was next. And coordination is so key in all this.
We did we did like a restoration work in a building, in a high-rise building, and it was just a small thing that happened, and then there's so much damage caused to it. So one of the top units got flooded and the water came running down from like 10 floors down. So they had to, and then it was coming through the elevator shaft. Oh. So they had to do so much restoration, like everything had to be thrown out, like the drywall, the insulation, like it was a disaster. And it becomes so hard renovating it because you got the occupants living there, and then you have to take materials, and there's construction, there's noise because of construction. It becomes very tough to do those places. But it's well worth it because that's where a good general contractor, a good construction team can come in and take all the headache away from you. And it won't be headache for them either because they're expert in that. So if they know what they're doing, they're really good at it, they obviously know what to do and how to handle that. While you can take care of the other stuff, that team for you comes in, does all the work, takes the headache away from you, get the job done. That's what you want.
And that's all she wrote. So as we finally land the airplane, Adil, is there anything, last comments, last words on commercial construction before we close today?
Commercial construction, I think we covered some of the major areas within the commercial construction. Yeah. And I would say if there's more questions, if anyone have any comments, please drop us a line in the comments. And then if there is something, and we can definitely have even just a podcast, just because if there is something that we feel like our audience need to know, we can just highlight those things. But in commercial construction in general, I love it. That's what Pircon does. What it does is the commercial construction part of it. It does require that extra set of knowledge, like an extra set of expertise and the knowledge in the team. This is where that's why we do so much commercial construction, because we find we're very effective there. This is where you kind of pay bang for your buck, because you hire a good team, they'll give you a good product and good response in the end. And it's exciting for us in doing the commercial construction, because there's so many things, that there's so many improvement, and then there's so many things in the industry that is coming in that does keeps us excited about the future of commercial construction.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you for everyone tuning in to today's episode. This is episode 5 of the Adil Pirzada podcast. This is hosted by the Pircon Group. We are design, build, general contractors. We will manage the full project for you from A to Z with our trained team, project managers, and our amazing trades and design crew ready to work for you, saving you time, helping you focus on key, important money-making tasks in your business. Leave the construction to us. Let us do it for you. If you'd like us to bid on any or give you an estimate on any of your projects coming up soon, we have special offers coming up, and we'd love to be able to service your company. You could send me an email. My email is kevin@pircongroup.com. I repeat, kevin@pircongroup.com. Send me an email, and I'm happy to discuss with you, and we'll talk about a plan to help your business grow and expand. So, go ahead and close this off, Adil, as we wrap up. I'm kind of getting sleepy, but
yeah, thanks, Kevin. It's been a long day, so I don't blame you. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. We really hope that you're benefiting from this. I always say that this is something that we're putting an effort on our end, just so we can leave something impactful for our audience. And at least we're starting, at least on the construction end, if we can help to educate you or something that we say that might help you. That's what we're looking for. And we want to do more and more of this in future. We're just learning this as we're doing it. But we do see a lot of potential in this. I think there isn't really any avenue right now at the moment for commercial construction. There is a lot of discussion and a lot of stuff like HGTV on residential construction. So commercial is not that discussed. And as we're becoming more and more, business oriented and entrepreneur as a nation, as people, I think we need to be more knowledgeable what we're about commercial construction. And sooner or later, if you got a business, you don't need a physical location. Sooner or later, you get big enough, or you do get into an industry where you're going to need a physical location. So you're going to have to build up that physical commercial place. And, and that might grow into 1 store to 10 stores, 200, and maybe you're building these plazas. So once you're in the industry, in the business world, you're going to need some construction, and it's going to be commercial, and that may grow into a big commercial projects for you. And this is where we can really come in and help you. And if we're not accessible to you for any reason, let's say we don't work in those provinces or states where we can't help you in construction, at least by watching and tuning into this channel, you can learn about construction, and you can learn about those things where you can find the right contractor, find the right team member, the right team, the right project management, the right general contractor for your business. Yeah, so that's what I would say. Thanks a lot for tuning in, for joining us. Keep watching, hit the like button, and we'll see you next week.
See you all.
Bye.